ॐ कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतक्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. In this ninth chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Geetā, we have covered up to the 25th verse. In this chapter, which has 34 verses, we have in this way 10 more verses left, if you count 25th also, for we have not seen the Bhāshya on the 25th. The 25th verse says, Yanti Devavrata Deva Pitrun Yanti Pitravrata Bhutani Yanti Bhutejya Yanti Madhyajinopima Yanti 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 Yanti. 4 times the word Yanti has come. Ya means to go. Ya becomes Yana, and you add pra, it becomes Prayana. Ya is to go. Yata ayata, going and coming. Devavrataha devan yanti. This verbal root ya, in a way, is easier than what is called the first group, patati, gachati, etc. You have ya, just add ti, ramaha yati. You have ya, just add mi, aham yami, I go. You have ya, just add si, tvam yasi, you go. Therefore, in some modern day Sanskrit lesson courses on online and others, they first teach ya. Otherwise, the old system was gachati or patati or khadati or atati, which are all, we call it pratama gana. This ya is dvitiya gana, but extremely simple. Yati yata hayanti, yasi yata hayata, yami yavaha yama. Yanti devavrataha deva. Lord Sri Krishna throws light on a beautiful and simple truth of psychology. You move towards what you adore. If you adore something less, that is where you end up. Something higher you adore, you reach the higher. Deva Vrataha means those who are so committed to, so devoted to various forms of gods. By context, it means the lower forms of God. One God appears in so many ways. And depending on our maturity, spiritual maturity, even if we are told to worship the Supreme God, Vishnu, Shiva, or the non-dual Brahman of the Vedantas, our sanskaras being what they are, we actually go for something which matches with our maturity. Devavrataha devan yanti. Therefore, this maturity, this enhancement of inner understanding is of paramount importance in life. Many a time in moral context also, the question is asked, I am walking on the road and suddenly somebody comes and takes out a dagger. Taking out a dagger, a knife. He says, I'll strike, I will hit you with this now, I'll kill you. And people ask this question to saints and wise people. What is the right response? What should I do? Should I run away? Should I, with whatever courage and strength I have, pounce upon him and try to snatch away the dagger? Or should I, like M.K. Gandhi used to say, Ahimsa paramo dharma, stretch my hands and say, oh brother, if it pleases you to kill me, go ahead, my dear brother. Which is the right way? Wise people on a higher plateau call this a wrong question. You are asking, what should I do? What should I do? Actually, that question doesn't arise at that time. You would do something in line with your level of consciousness. Somebody once asked this question to Jiddu Krishnamurti, who always spoke from a high plane. By high plane, I don't mean an idealistic plane. In my understanding, M.K. Gandhi spoke from some idealistic framework. He believed in will and practice and developing Sankalpa Shakti. He had reached some level, certainly, no doubt. But others could not suddenly go to that level. They could not practice. So their ahimsa was so superficial. So Jiddu Krishnamurti said, sir, he would answer even a young person, calling them, addressing them, sir. Sir, let's leave that man with dagger for a while. You have been touched by these teachings, meaning his own discourses. Sir, leave these values, leave these teachings, leave what is suggested here, to be attentive, to be aware, to think twice before responding, and such things, you see. Krishnamurti did not give a list of do's and don'ts. He abhorred do's and don'ts. He highlighted living in greater awareness. So he said, if you leave these teachings for a while, and then if something like this were to happen, a man with a dagger coming and threatening to attack you, you will do whatever is the best possible. You will do. What you will do emanates, comes forth, arises from your level of spiritual awareness, or another language is how high your consciousness has risen. Spirituality is a vertical rise in consciousness. Those of us who are on a lower level of consciousness react on a certain plane, no matter what we have learned in the classes on morality. At the spur of the moment, as we are face to face with a provocation or a temptation, everything takes a back seat, but our actual level of awareness shows its good or bad face. Yanti deva vrata deva. It is as simple as this. A man and his child go to a mall. Now, man is driven to or attracted to maybe some new automobiles that have come, some electronic gadgets that have come, and he may be interested in some machines, something. And he may try to pull the child, come, let us go to that stall, that booth, that shop. But the child, with all her force, pulls the hand of the father. No, Papa, come with me. The child wants to go to the shop selling dolls, puppets, some toys. Yanti devavrata deva. Pitran yanti pitravrata. Many departed souls have risen to certain high levels and they are able to bless us with boons also. Just as among your uncles or aunts when you were at young age, today most of you are uncles and aunts, most of you are grandfathers and grandmothers. So to half the audience at this moment, perhaps talking about uncles and aunts would be not very appropriate. Uncles and aunts, have already died and gone. But I'm giving an analogy. You are 22-year-old, 24-year-old, and you are in a small town in Orissa, but you have to go for some interview or for some other work to New Delhi. You have never been to New Delhi. And you have an uncle there, and you have an aunt living in New Delhi. Contact him, you contact her. And they, after all, being your mother's brother or father's sister, they will say, come, come, I will help you. And if they are influential, if they know Delhi very well, then they will do quite a lot. That's analogy. Like that analogy, the departed ancestors, according to the Hindu scriptures, you may not believe in it. That is the tragedy of most Hindus these days. They don't believe in 90% of what Hinduism says because they have not received proper exposure at all. No exposure. Simply, other day, who was that? There is a funny Swami called Nityananda. He has built a ashram on some island in some part of the world. That's another story. That Swami Nityananda once in a while speaks something very sensible. The other day he said, see what has happened to Hindus. And he says, so many Hindu gurus have built big ashrams. They have built spiritual centers and they provide education. Then he says, but what is the education they are providing? They have built medical colleges also. They have built engineering colleges also. Colleges of arts, science, commerce, management. They run so many. But all those institutions are imparting 95%, if not more, Western education. Western education they receive, hardly anything that these gurus who built those institutions actually stand for. Western education is given. So he makes a very interesting remark. Anyway, Pitrun Yanti Pitravrata. Therefore, if you really want to know Hinduism, you must study the Hindu Shastras from those who know the Shastras very well, not from those who just interpret everything as per their fancy. They may have a lot of oratorical skills, they may know English very well, or even Hindi or any other language very well. They may have a gift of the gab, and you see it superficially, this Mahatma has gone to 20 countries. How does that matter? Whereas somebody like the Acharyas of Sringeri or Kanchi, they do not go abroad at all. Some orthodoxy, there also you may have your own prejudice against it. That is sad again. But they go by certain customs. They have studied and reflected on the Hindu scriptures, Vedas, Puranas, Smritis, and many other. They have studied the Sanskrit language properly. They have, in addition, done a lot of japa and tapa. They observe Ekadashi, they observe so many vratas. Some of these acharyas of Sringeri, Kanchi, Puri or Dwarka or Joshimath, though a lot of Hindus don't care much for them, because the majority of Hindus get agitated at some little orthodox thing that they may talk. Getting annoyed and agitated about some traditional thing they may say, the Hindus, alas, dump a whole lot of good, whole lot of deeper insights, whole lot of their tapas also means nothing to these people. That is the sad part. Anyway, pitru nyanti pitru vrataha. When your exposure is very less, you are very impatient. You discard. You stand in judgment over Sringeri Acharya. you, you who do not have even 10% of learning, you stand in judgment. You pronounce like a judge sitting at a high altar. The least you can do is keep your mouth shut. You may just say, well, Sringeri Acharya yesterday said something about women or caste or something. I have nothing to say. Just keep quiet. But do not say, I know better. You don't know Hinduism. You don't know Sanatana Dharma's strengths and shortcomings. Because you are Western educated or you are not educated at all. You are not educated at all in Dharma, in values. You learned mathematics or physics. You learned biology or economics. You may have a PhD in some anthropology. But those are all. With that degree, maybe from Oxford or Cambridge, or Harvard or Stanford, you think that you can pronounce a judgment on whether heaven is in your mind or there is actually a heaven that Jivatmas experience. And you want to give a judgment on a wide range of social, human value, moral issues. Alas, that is a sad plight. And maybe all of us are responsible for it. Even I have no right to blame anybody. All of us, and maybe there are some historical reasons for them. That's another big topic. Anyway, Pitru Nyanti Pitru Vrata. Pitru is the ancestors who live in other realms. And those who are devoted to those Pitrus, the ancestors who are in other worlds, not on the earth, they reach certain levels. And those levels also are nowhere near what you would attain if you were to go for that all pervasive, all powerful, all knowing, Sarvavyapi, Sarvashakta, Sarvajna Ishvara. Most people have no understanding. They have no feeling for that Sarvajna, Sarvashakta, Sarveshvara. Bhutani yanti bhutejya. Call it vrataha or ijya. Ijya comes from same root as is involved in yajna. Yajna, broadly speaking, is worship. Those who worship bhuta. Last class also we talked about some bhutas. We talked about Panjurli and other demigods and semi-gods and so many. Basically, there is nothing wrong with them. You have to be careful. Even if you worship some small Grama Devata in the town or village, neither town nor village in between. Where I grew up, right at the entrance of our small town, there was a tree, and below the tree there was one demigod. And so much was said. Cars, especially taxi drivers, as they enter my town, and as they are crossing that, by the roadside, there is the maybe people tree or banyan tree, some tree with a platform also. And there, that is where that demigod, Bobbaria is called. Like Panjurli, which is a certain boar or pig form, and then this is Bobbarya, and they're like that in many parts of our country. We have these Brahma Devatas. It is said that taxi drivers have to stop and do a small namaskar and then go, otherwise, there are a lot of beliefs. And you educated people have all the right to question those beliefs, to ask. But my only appeal is to study the Shastras. Shastras are much more than what you presently know. Those of us who have studied a little more, have only felt, oh God, we don't know, we never knew these things, these depths, these beautiful aspects, these all accommodating perspectives, all encompassing. Sanatana Dharma, without any doubt, we can say, has the broadest angle of view. There was a beautiful short clip that came our way a couple of days ago. The present Junior Acharya of Sringeri is addressing a crowd, probably in Bangalore. Lakhs and lakhs of people are hearing. And he makes a certain point very clear. I saved that video. Unfortunately, it's in Kannada, so I won't be able to share with all. In that speech, he says, we are praying for our dharma, Sanatana Dharma, to become stronger, with no intention of any harm to come to other religions. But our firm faith is Sanatana Dharma, with its accommodating nature, suppose he is in good shape, it's good for the whole world. He didn't make a single sentence condemning, criticizing, finding fault with other religions. He said, beauty of Sanatana Dharma is, we don't say, Sarve Hindavaha Sukhino Bhavantu. We say, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. May all on the earth, may all on the earth be happy. May all on the earth be healthy. May nobody on the earth come to sorrow. Ma kaschit dukkha bhagave. Giving some simple quotes, he pointed out this main strength. Sanatana Dharma accommodates, respects. The same family, a brother may be a Shiva Bhakta, a sister may be a Vishnu Bhakta, and the younger one might be more interested in Nirakara, Nirguna. Sanatana Dharma says, all right, all right. Sanatana Dharma, to a great extent, is tolerant of good percentage of Hindus who don't believe in any god. Nastikas also. Sarve bhavantu sukhina. Today you may not believe in God. Hopefully a day will come when you wake up to an understanding what is meant by God. You had a certain notion of your own. You defined God and then that is not meaningful. You define. If some child defines fire, mother asks, what is fire? And the child shows a picture of fire, a portrait. And then the mother asks, is fire hot or cold? The child touches that picture of fire and says, fire is cold. So the child has not known fire really. The child knows the picture fire and then says it's cold. Like that, many of our Hindus give judgments. I don't think there is God really. I think man made God. God did not make man, and so on. They say. Alas. So Sri Samidhanam, Vidushekara Swamiji, in a very simple, dignified, calm way he addressed. He said, we pray for our dharma to grow because we believe in the well-being of the entire world. Those who believe in Vedas or do not believe in Vedas. Those who believe in Gita or do not believe in Gita. Those who criticize idol worship or those who accept idol. Doesn't matter. May all be living a righteous life. May they live in mutual harmony. These are the prayers of Sanatana. Bhutani yanti bhutebhya. So Bhuta, I need not elaborate more. The small gods. Sanatana Dharma says, yes, that's nothing wrong. Sri Ramana Maharshi was approached by somebody who said, Swami, what you talk goes above my head. I worship a little god form in my small town. And I pray to that small god form every morning before going to work. Do I have any chance at all for liberation? Ramana Maharshi said, why not? Please do it and slowly rise in your inner consciousness. Please pray for things of larger good rather than praying to that little God for something for yourself, your wealth, your health, your pleasure, your comfort. Pray for your whole family. Pray for your whole village. Then you will change. Then you will know more. And who knows, in that small symbol, in that small idol, in that small pratika, a small figure over there, you will have a higher understanding. That small figure does not anymore stand for anything small, but that small figure may represent something higher, larger, more huge. And typical of Maharshi Ramana, he said, it will bring you eventually to the great question, who am I? The question, who am I, will arise in a natural way, spontaneous way in your bosom. God bless you, said Sri Raman. Don't worship this God. Worship the God I worship. My God alone is true. That God is false. And you will go to hell if you worship that God. Krishna, Krishna. That is not the flavor of the all-accommodating Sanatana Dharma, which talks about high stuff, but does not force, does not breathe hot air over your shoulders as you are something. Yanti madhyajino pima. Sri Krishna says, those who worship me, those who adore me, they come to me. Here, this me is not the particular avatar or the particular personality of Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva and Devaki, but me means the pure I, the pure, unbounded, unbound I. So, from the Vedanta perspective, while so many forms of worship have their own merit, do not doubt it. Finally, as your awareness rises to greater heights, you will know that behind and beneath the little I, the ego, the little self, which is presently operating, there is a certain vaster, pure self, which has no birth or death, and you contemplate more and more on that. As you anchor yourself in the Shuddha Atma, which is boundless, the little self finds its place. It sits in its own place. It plays its role as is needed, but will not jeopardize your peace, your happiness. We will see now how Sri Shankaracharya makes a few simple comments. Yanti means gachanti. Devavrataha deveshu vratam niyamaha bhaktischa yesham. Whoever has devotion, whoever follows certain rules revolving around the worship of that particular god, then they go to that god form. Pitrun Agnishu Attadin. So, Agnishu Attadin. That is, to worship these departed souls, you light up a fire as the Vedas, the Vedangas give instructions how it is to be done. Typically, Agni, Agnishu, in fires, plural. So there are several kinds of Agni. Fire is the same, but how you set it up, the Homakunda, the Havanakunda, the sacrificial pit, and other arrangements. So, therefore, Agnishu. It doesn't have to be the physical arrangements. There are different Agnis based on the different mantras to be used, different vows to be followed, and Attadin. Atta, Attarau, Attaraha, Attaram, Attarau, Atrun. So Atta means Atti, one who eats is Atta. But here the Atta is a particular Devata who accepts on behalf of the Pitras, who has a role to play. Whenever you approach a certain organization, from the receptionist onwards, there are officers who do their jobs. Finally, you may actually meet the higher person whom you wanted to meet. Therefore, you had come there. So in the yajnas also, in yagas also, there are many divine forces at work. I too don't know much about this Atta. Atta is the Agnish Attadi. So Atta is the Pratama Vibhakti Ekavachana of Atra. So Attadi Nyanti Pitravrataha. Shraddhadi Kriyaparaha Pitrabhakta. So they do the Varshika. When someone dies, elderly person, initially there are some rituals for several days, 10 to 14 days. Then there is Masika every month. But after a year, once a year, there is some Varshika, Shraddha, Tithi, they call it. So those who perform this and are very devoted to Pitras, they receive blessings from those energies, those forces. Personify them or look at them as bundles of some unique energy. Look at them in an impersonal way, fine. Non-personified way, fine. Because the Vedas go back and forth. He is a Devata, a person with legs and hands and eyes and nose like we have. The Vedas say, yes, you may think of them in that manner. Another student says, are Devatas essentially certain forces at work, certain energies at work, certain laws that are at work, which are personified? The Vedas would answer, yes, you may look at them in that way also. Back and forth doesn't make much difference. You may persuade, you can go from Nirakara to Sakara. From Sakara, you can come back to Nirakara. Move back and forth. What is important is you nurture and nourish the pure, selfless, service-minded devotion in you. These are certain settings where you can grow inwardly on the vertical scale of consciousness. Bhutani Vinayaka Matragana Chaturbhagini Adini. These are less known in modern times, but it is in these areas that the older must have greater knowledge. So we respect them for that reason. So they are custodians. Sometimes some people criticize Shankara Matas and so on. See, they are not into Vedanta, they are so much into karma. Dear sir, you need at least 2% of people to safeguard the karmas. The karmas are a science. The karmas are not to be underestimated. Let 98% people go for these other subjects and Vedanta fascinates people. God bless them. But don't get so impatient. The Shankara Mathas, the Udupi Matha, and so many Mathas, yeah, they do have a certain orthodox facade, orthodox veneer. At certain places, they are orthodox. Bear with them. But their main contribution is various Vedic rituals are kept in good form from generation to generation. There are certain science to be preserved, Agnihotra. And when you hear about the benefits of certain yajnas performed properly, your eyebrows will go up. Therefore, when Maharshi Mahesh Yogi prescribed Vedic rituals to Europeans, they saw the results in the organization called TM, Transcendental Meditation Group, which is worldwide. As some of you may know, in United States, in the state of Iowa, there is a big center and there is a university, Maharshi University in Iowa, and they study the Vedas. And in Germany and Holland, etc., Maharshi Mahesh Yogi spent much of his later life in Holland. In those countries, there are a large number of people who, on special occasions, either themselves perform, but sometimes they may not know how to do it. They request Pandits in India, in Rishikesh and other places, to perform particular Vedic fire rituals for their sake. And they know that it has delivered the goods. So there's a whole larger science, Mantra Vidya, very much like Tantra Vidya of modern times. Tantra Vidya is modern technology, but Mantra Vidya has been verified and practiced by Indians for a very long time. Leave alone those rituals. If you take any mantra seriously and do japa every day, you will see results in yourself. So many negativities go, so much chitta shuddhi takes place. Just to repeat Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram for some 45 minutes every day at certain time. You will find your karma, your krodha, your lobha, your regrets, your tendency to blame society, the spouse or children, neighbors or politicians, fret and fume and in the process spoil your own health. Look at the tragedy. You blame everybody, nothing happens to them almost, but your health fails. You get a heart attack one morning. Alas, go for Chitta Shuddhi. And just as japa, which is just vocal, various karmas, they are mentioned Vinayaka Matragana Chaturbhagini Adi. These are the examples for bhutas. Vinayaka, I don't know whether Shankaracharya says Vinayaka here, he refers to Lord Ganesha, who is also called Vinayaka, or maybe a certain representation of Lord Ganesha in a lower plane. So these are technicalities, and sometimes we wish we knew more and more, and that is where the ancient mutts play a role. They play, in spite of so much of invasions, Mughal invasion, British invasion, so many invasions. These centers of learning have kept a lot of ancient scriptures, interpretations, etc. They have protected them. And you go see their lifestyle. Many of those Pandits there live a very simple life. You may see 1 in 10 or 2 in 10 who are after money. But there will be 7 or 8, 8 or 9 among those boys studying the Vedas who hardly eat anything. who hardly have enough clothes to wear. Those who are studying the Vedas in this country even today, in large numbers, are quite poor. They don't care actually. They go every morning to the nearby river. They take a dip there, come back. They have to do so much of japa every morning before they may take breakfast, etc. Even today, you see those customs. And what are they devoted to? They are devoted to knowing the scriptures, shastras, so on and so forth. Of course, in those, some pundits come to cities and very soon they become rich. And yes, some percentage of them go berserk. You find them, going after money. But please do not generalize. Anyway, Vinayaka Matra Gana Chaturbhagini Adini Bhutejya. So various forms of divinity, but nowhere near the Sarvajna, Sarvashakta, Sarveshwara and so on, or Sarvavyapi and so on. Bhutanam Pujakaha Bhutejyaha Yanti Madhyajana Madhyajana Shilaha Vaishnavaha, those who adore Vishnu. Bhagavad Geetā being given by Sri Krishna, Acharya Shankara has a tremendous sense of context. Otherwise, that one non-dual Brahma appears as Vishnu or Shiva or Devi. But here in this context, stay with the context, stay with the framework. Those who worship Vishnu, Mameva. Now comes a very wonderful statement. Samane api ayase. Whether you worship a little form of God or the Supreme God, the effort is the same. Effort. But your mindset, your level of consciousness, your level of awareness, your understanding is vastly different. Therefore, do not just stay in mere willpower. I'll do. So along with willpower, enhance your understanding. Will is an operation where with a certain knowledge which is defined, you go on repeating whatever you are doing. Whereas understanding makes you call it a broader context or call it higher level. Samane api ayase. The effort being the same, why don't you rise to a higher understanding and with the same energy? Ayasa is energy. Ayasa is exertion. Expending the same amount of energy, why don't you receive higher rewards? Mameva na bhajante ajnanat, but vast majority of people on the earth, ajnanat, because they are so ignorant. These principles apply everywhere. Even in business it applies. Those who know how to run a business, they have a greater understanding. Forming teams, delegating, visualizing, and setting up various structures, delegating where it needs to be delegated, being clear about the vision, so many things. So business coaches take the trouble to instruct. Otherwise, many a time somebody says, I have a company with 200 employees. Okay, very good. But I am under tremendous stress, he says. Why? And then the business coaches point out, you please watch everywhere they are there. But one example is Rajiv Talreja. He has a book also, Lead or Bleed. If you don't know how to lead, you will end up bleeding out your blood. So as he and others point out, what happens is he has got 200 employees whom he pays salary, but he works day and night He himself does everything and suffers. So in business also the same principle works. If that business leader, the CEO, the founder, the chairman, whatever you call, is more intelligent, learns some new skills, right? Then with half or one third of the energy that he was spending before, he will be able to get 10 times more work done. His company will grow. He can even increase the salaries too. Rajiv Talreja says at a certain place there was some CEO or some owner said very proudly, I work very hard and I ensure that I have a small company with 15 employees. I ensure that all those 15 get the salary on the first of the month. Many a time I don't take my salary, proudly. And Rajiv said to him, you should not be proud about it. You should be ashamed about it. You are so unintelligent. Don't make a virtue of this confusion in your mind. Paying all the employees all the salary and yourself not somehow managing, making the two ends meet, yourself not having the money to celebrate Diwali, you ensured your employees had a great go at it. You could not, in your family, you went for a very economical budget. That is not something to be proud of, so he says. Coming back, in spirituality too, those who ignore study, those who neglect the enhancement of their knowledge, spiritual knowledge, scriptural knowledge, who sometimes even mock at those people who study. Ah, do people pseudo intellectuals? I don't like, I've read enough, I know enough, I only practice, I only do my anushtana. Anushtana has its place, but regular study has a very important place. Shankaracharya says, Samane api ayase. While the expenditure of energy is the same, foolish people do not worship the Supreme God. They spend their energy on worshipping some small gods. And who makes those small gods small? Mainly it is these people's lack of understanding. What you worship is not small by itself, but you make it small with your understanding being so limited. Otherwise, in what is otherwise looked at as small by all others, you may be able to see the Sarvajna, Sarveshwar. Meera also carried the idol of Sri Krishna, and so many people keep an idol of Sri Krishna. But Sant Meera had understanding. I'm using this, I'm keeping this idol, but this Sri Krishna is everywhere. So that height of the idol, the width of the idol, the mass or the weight of the idol did not limit her appreciation of God, her appreciation, her understanding, her love of God transcended, went far beyond the boundaries of that idol made of metal or some clay or whatever. Therefore, the punchline is Tenate alpha phalabajo muhad. Because of their ignorance, because of their poor spiritual education, they become alpa phala bhaja. Bhak bhajao bhaja. So they become the enjoyers of very little reward, very little benefit, very little good comes to them. Ityartha. Therefore, every verse like this verse, which is generally not much quoted, this verse is not taken as all that significant, but with Shankaracharya's comments, we see that there is a great practical advice for every one of us. Live your day with greater understanding. Rise higher, understanding. Then even little things we do, spiritual or secular, can bless you with greater happiness as well as inner expansion. You rise on the spiritual scale. You are a happier, stronger, more resilient person than otherwise, backed by higher understanding. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.